Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, it's the Assistant Majority Leader of the Nevada State Senate. State Senator Julia Ratti joins us for the whole show on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Hello, is this D&D Roofing?
Yes, it is. How may I help you?
You did such a great job on my roof. May I speak to the owner?
I am an owner.
Oh, can I speak to your supervisor?
Sure.
How may I help you?
I love your work. May I speak to the owner?
I am an owner. We're all owners. Well, that's why at D&D we work so hard to keep your home safe and sound.
Oh, no wonder.
D&D Roofing and Sheet Metal. Local, employee-owned, here for you.
Nearly 200,000 Nevadans work in retail businesses, supporting families and the community. Nevada's retail businesses generated over $2 billion in sales tax revenue in 1 year, including nearly $700 million to help our schools. Shop around and see all that Nevada's retailers offer our state.
We're the Retail Association of Nevada, representing thousands of Nevada businesses.
Businesses that work for Nevada.
Pro Group Management specializes in providing industries with the necessary components to satisfy and exceed workers' comp requirements. Every business has unique needs and specific regulations. Pro Group Management stays ahead of the curve, providing up-to-date services to keep your industry in top form. Discover how we simplify your tasks, improve efficiency, and reduce expense to keep you moving in a positive direction. Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Truck drivers are some of the hardest working people you'll meet, delivering over 70% of America's freight and 92% of Nevada's. When there's a natural disaster, they're delivering critical supplies to help those communities recover and rebuild. Every sector of the economy and our nation's military rely on truck drivers. So let's take a moment to say thank you. On the open road or city streets, our truck drivers are rolling to make our economy and our nation stronger. Trucking moves America forward.
The 7th Annual Nevada Newsmakers Goes to Washington is brought to you by Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you. University Medical Center of Southern Nevada, compassion, accountability, integrity, respect. Tolles Development Company, breathing life into Northern Nevada's future. And the Regional Transportation Commission of Washoe County, meeting the community's present and future needs.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're delighted to welcome back to the program State Senator Julia Ratti, who is now the Assistant Majority Leader of the Nevada Senate. It is a pleasure to have you back on the program.
Thanks for having me.
Just briefly, tell me what it was like, because, you know, obviously there were major changes at the top of the leadership on the Democratic side, and suddenly you found yourself as the number 2 person. What was that like?
You know, obviously it's a huge honor to be asked to serve in that position, and while it was a little tumultuous to have it happen in that first, I think it was the 32nd day of the session, so we're about a fourth of the way through. I think that I'm incredibly proud of Senator Cannizzaro in particular, who is our majority leader. We picked up the ball, ran with it, and I don't think that Nevadans saw any difference in the outcome that we had from the legislative session. We know that we're sent down there for an important reason, and that's to represent our districts and to make sure that we're passing the laws that are important to the people of the state of Nevada, and we just didn't let it get in the way of getting business done.
Criminal justice reform. Were you okay with the way that came out in the end?
Yeah, I don't sit on the Judiciary Committee, so this was not an area that I spent personally significant time on, though it was a huge priority for our caucus, and again, I think for the state of Nevada and really for the country. This is an issue that we're wrestling with nationwide of how do we make sure that we are keeping people safe and that we are making sure that we have an appropriate system in place where if you really do harm to other people that there's some consequences for that, and at the same time that we don't have a system that is, biased and is more targeted to some folks than it is to others, or that is locking up people for significant periods of time when there's really no public safety need for that. I believe in a reformative system where people have an opportunity to have a second chance in most cases. And so we made, I think, huge strides in that direction last session. Great leadership on the part of Assemblyman Yeager, Senator Cannizzaro again, Speaker Frierson. And, in the legislative process, work is never done. There will always be tweaks and adjustments that need to be made. So I'm sure we'll have another conversation in the next session. But I'm really proud of the steps we took.
Let's talk about growth, because we are experiencing phenomenal growth at both ends of the state, but perhaps more noticeable in northern Nevada just because it's so significant population-wise. What are your thoughts on this as we move forward? What are your concerns?
Well, I think that in many ways we need to mature as a state, as a community, and there's a whole suite of issues, right? We have affordability challenges for a lot of people, and we need to look at affordability not just on how expensive is it to live here, particularly in areas of housing, but across the board, but also are we creating an environment where there's opportunity and people can earn a wage that allows them to live in a community. It's not just the expense side, it's also the income side, right? How do we make sure that people are getting the education that they need, getting the training program, that we're getting people into apprenticeships or community colleges or the university depending on their path, and that we're getting folks to a place where they can earn that wage so that they can be a part of this community, they can take advantage of some of that opportunity. Like right now, the opportunity seems to be landing in a relatively small number of hands, and there's a whole bunch of people who are being negatively impacted. So we need to figure out how we're taking care of everyone. When we have a wonderful, vital, or really nice economy going, how do we make sure that everybody has an opportunity to benefit from that?
So it seems that on one front, because you hit so many issues there, on the education level, it seems like the major corporations that have invested money here are going to the universities, going to the community colleges, and even going into the high schools to see how they can work with these institutes to bring up the level of education. Are you comfortable with that?
Well, I think it's a piece of the solution. It's a small piece of the solution. We need to make sure that—
What's the big piece?
Well, we need to make sure that the foundation's strong. So, those are wonderful extras, if you will. There are places where we absolutely need to have the business community, for instance, working with the community college community to make sure that if we have Nevadans who are paying money for tuition and they're investing in an educational program that they believe is going to lead to a certain job, that those jobs actually exist when we come out and that we're matching that up. That's very important. But if we don't have the strong K-12 foundation, if we aren't doing a good job in pre-K to make sure that all kids have a strong start when they first arrive at school so that we're not always playing catch up, if we aren't making sure that our apprenticeship programs are valued and integrated into our education system and integrated into our community college system, if we aren't connecting all of those dots and funding it appropriately, then those little extras that our corporate partners can do through philanthropy or leaning in through their community engagement are not going to be enough to turn the tide. I personally believe that it is, education is one place where it really is the government's responsibility to step up and get it right at the base level and then partner with all the other interests who want to make sure that all of our kids have a good opportunity.
Well, one of the things that I've talked about in this program for years, it's actually decades now at this point, is remedial education. That we still have a system where you graduate from high school and then you go to college and now you're in remedial education. It's a huge cost, and why is it even there?
It's a great question. And so there's been some really wonderful work done nationally, and we're doing some of the same work in the state of really looking at, not just in our country, but countries across the world, what works in education. And we're getting to a place where we really do know what works. We know that making sure that you have a really strong pre-K program so that kids come to school ready to learn. 5 years old, if you haven't caught them earlier than that, if you don't know that the number of words that are spoken to your child from the time that they're born until they're 3 years old really makes a difference in their vocabulary and their ability to read when they're 5. So what are we doing in terms of early childhood investment becomes significantly important. This is an area in the state of Nevada that there's a lot of work to do. A high quality teacher in every classroom. That's that's an essential component. So what are we doing to support teachers to make sure
all
that
right.
they can be high quality teachers? I mean, and
Let
there
me
are
dig into
3 or
that.
4 other elements, but we know we just need to start, we need to have the political will to invest and make sure we get it done.
Okay, just in Clark County alone, average year, 600 teachers shortfall.
Yep.
Of just teachers, not qualified in any particular way, but just teachers. I don't know what the number is in Washoe County, but I'm sure it's comparable in comparison to the size of the district. So what are you recommending in terms of, is it funding? What is the attraction?
Well, Sam, would you become a teacher today?
You wouldn't want me to be a teacher, period.
Would
And
you
plus,
advise your child to become a teacher today?
You know what? The funny thing about this program is I don't know anything, which is why I invite very smart people like yourself to come on the program to give me answers. So I give it back to you.
That's what we have to address is, is teaching a profession that people are drawn to? And if it isn't, why is that? So we're going to have to address all of those elements. So part of it's going to be teacher pay. Part of it's going to be classroom size reduction. Part of it's going to be that they have the training and support that they need. Part of it's a cultural shift. There's been, I think, a concerted effort to downgrade the standing of teachers. Some of the attacks on the unions, some of the ways that we have not valued the incredibly important role that teachers play in our classrooms. So everything that we can do, not just as a legislature, because I can work on policy issues, I can work on funding issues, but also as a community in terms of how we step up and say that teachers are important and valuable. We're going to make sure that they have the support that they need to be successful because their job is one of the most important that we have in our community.
Okay, so in terms of funding, we have seen, the last several cycles of the legislature, an increase in education funding. On the other hand, Ruben Murillo was on the program and said we need $1 billion more to go towards education. Others in the education community have said, yeah, that's about the right number. Is that the right number for you? And if so, where do we get it?
Well, it doesn't really matter if it's the right number for me. What matters is that as...
I didn't mean personally, I just meant,
Well, as people who hopefully believe in responsible governance, that we're getting good information. And so there's been a significant effort in the last legislative session to do a couple, not just last legislation, it goes back, as you said, in some cases decades, right? But in recent history, in the last 6 to 8 years, we have invested in bringing in good analysis to both look at, again, what makes a high quality school? So, I think sometimes people will say we're just throwing money at the problem, but the reality is we need to know what makes a high quality education and then what does that cost? And so there's been some wonderful analysis, and that $1 billion number comes from that analysis that says, this is what it's going to take for us to have adequate funding in the state of Nevada. We needed to do the work on the education funding formula that happened in the last legislative session because you cannot convince a community that they need to invest in education if you can't show them how those dollars are going to be spent. And so I believe that the work that was done in the last legislative session to modernize a funding formula that was 50 years old, we hadn't touched it in 50 years. It was back at a time when Las Vegas had half the population. I mean, way less, right? A very different state than it was than where we are today. So that work got done in the last session. In the last 3 sessions, as you've said, we've been putting more money and more money in. But everybody in that building, I believe, recognizes that we are still not adequately funding our schools, and there's more work to be done.
Okay, and do you think that the majority of the funding should go towards teachers' salaries? If you want to get better qualified teachers, is that the answer?
So any business person who works in a service economy is going to answer that question and say absolutely. Education is a highly human intensive business. We've already got one of the most lean administrative ratios in the nation, at least in Washoe County School District. I believe the same is true in Clark County. So we've already narrowed down as much as we can the folks who are living in the administrative space to make sure everything is running. Sometimes I think we're actually even a little bit penny wise and pound foolish in that area. But the vast majority of those dollars are going to go into human beings who are going to help children become educated. And the vast majority of that will be teachers, but we're also learning that we need to put social workers in school, because if we aren't realistic about the issues that children bring to school, they are a product of their neighborhood, a product of their community's environment. If we aren't addressing childhood trauma, if we aren't addressing that some of the kids come to school hungry, if we aren't addressing that some of the kids come to school with health needs, then we're not going to be as effective as we want to be. So it's going to be highly trained professionals who will make a difference.
Do you have concerns, though, that the superintendent level of both Washoe County and Clark County gives people a lack of confidence in wanting to increase taxes or whatever? to go towards education, because they look at this public mess and they have concerns that their money is not going to be spent wisely.
I don't, because I was actively involved in the WC1 campaign, and if you remember
Very
what was
targeted.
But if you remember
spending.
what was happening in our community, a whole bunch of folks said you'll never get it to pass because there's such a mess at the top of the school district that the voters are not going to be able to support you. And the voters saw through that. They knew that education is the most important thing in our community. They knew that we needed new facilities, and I think that they are getting the message loud and clear that our teachers need more support.
All right, let's take a
break. I
break.
have faith in the voters.
Always a good thing. Let's take a break. More with State Senator Julia Ratti when we come back.
Tamarack Junction is South Reno's hotspot with over 450 of the latest slots and video games. Sully's Sports Bar, the Dining Car Restaurant, William Hill Sportsbook, and the Tamarack Steakhouse and Lounge. We're just north of the Summit Mall in South Virginia. Yeah.
Because of UMC, there's a wide open road ahead of me.
Because of UMC, she can grow up with her twin sister.
Because of UMC, I'm here to help you.
UMC, the highest level of care in Nevada.
Hi, I'm Eric Robnett, owner of Home Energy Experts. Has this ever happened to you?
Honey, did you remember to turn down the thermostat?
Forgetting to set the temperature? Not fun. We can help. Our new smart thermostat keeps the temperature set for your comfort all by itself.
I'm feeling hot now.
To increase your comfort, go to homeenergyexperts.com for details. That's homeenergyexperts.com.
The signs and symptoms of cataracts can start out small with subtle changes in your vision. So don't wait. Be proactive and take your vision into your own hands. If you're experiencing the onset of cataracts or just have questions, contact your eye care professional or call Eye Care Associates of Nevada today. Dr. Hiss has years of experience specializing in the surgical correction of eye disorders and has completed over 84,000 vision correcting procedures. At Eye Care Associates of Nevada, we'll change the way you look at the world.
The Tamarack Junction Steakhouse is known for signature steaks, handcrafted cocktails, and world-class wines. Join us Thursdays and Friday nights from 4:30 to 6:30 in the Steakhouse Lounge for live music, gourmet plates, and well-priced wines, just north of the Summit Mall on South Virginia.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with State Senator Julia Ratti. One of the big problems that is popping up now in both northern and southern Nevada is the homeless situation. Yeah. Now, it's been a consistent problem for years. It's not something that's new, but it's becoming more visible in both areas. You've got Las Vegas City Council working on plans that are getting a lot of pushback about the homeless. In northern Nevada, you've got incredible development, which is great for the city, but it's pushing out a lot of the motels that, even though they were substandard, they were at least a roof over somebody's head. Whether you think that's a good thing or not is a different question. But in going to places like Oakland and even Berkeley, where you see these homeless camps, what are your concerns, and what do you think government's role is in helping to mitigate these?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought up Oakland and Berkeley. Salt Lake City, the last time I was there, this is not just a Nevada problem, this is a national problem, and clearly there's something that's happening in our world that is making it more and more difficult for the people who are most vulnerable in our communities to have the very basics that they need to survive. We're talking Maslow's hierarchies of needs: food, shelter, clothing. And what kind of a country do we want to be? Do we want our senior citizens who worked an entire life and worked maybe in a low-wage job, and so now they hit a point in their life where they're living off of a $900 a month Social Security check, and how do they have a place to live? How do they have a decent meal every day? And so I think that we as a society, writ large, not Republicans or Democrats, not one legislative session, but across the country, are going to have to decide what kind of a country we want to be. How do we want to treat the most vulnerable among us? There's some wonderful things happening. We did some good work on affordable housing in the last legislative session. There's a huge backlog. We've only got about 15 to 20 of every 100 units that we need for that very vulnerable. So we're talking about people who are 30% of the area median income or less. We've increased by setting up a state low-income housing tax credit program, we've increased that by 60%. So you'll see 60% more of those units built for the next 4 years. I hope that we'll be able to demonstrate the success of that program and really housing people not in terrible weekly motels, but in high quality, safe, appropriate housing for, again, a senior who's in their twilight years, or a person with a disability, a veteran, family with children. So we need to do work there. You've seen some innovative solutions by local governments who are leaning in and doing things like the Sage Street project, that is a dormitory-style housing for working, low-income working family or working individuals. You're seeing folks like Hope's doing their project. I think it's called Hope Springs, where it's supportive services for somebody who has a substance abuse issue or a mental health issue that needs those wraparound services to become stabilized. And those are all wonderful. We just need to take them to scale. Again, in many of these issues, we know what the solution is. It's finding the resources and being very targeted and having the right priority of making sure that we're investing in things that will make a difference.
Okay, so we've talked about resources now in education. Now we're talking about it in homelessness. Yep. The question becomes, who's going to pay?
Sure. So, I mean, I believe, and again, I'm speaking for myself here, that we're still in a phase in Nevada history where we have to modernize our economy to match the growth that's happened in our state. You and I have lived here for a very long time, and we remember a time when there were so few people and gaming was the industry, and it was there's only here in one other state where there was gaming, and we could all sit back and we could let gaming pay 100%, a high level of the freight. And that has resulted in the state of Nevada us having some of the lowest tax burden for our businesses, for our individuals, for all of my lifetime. But we're moving into a time now where Vegas is coming up on 3 million people. Even in northern Nevada, we have 500,000 people. Gaming is no longer, gaming is still a powerful industry in the state of Nevada. It still pays a significant portion of the taxes, but they can't cover everything the way that they used to. And so you see it, every 5 to 10 years, we have to have this big conversation in the legislature because we need to update, and we never quite push the dial all the way to where we are, but each conversation we take that next step forward. And yeah, I do think we need to have a conversation that we're probably all going to need to invest a little bit more.
So do you see a services tax?
I think it's going to have to be a broad-based conversation where we look at everything that's on the table.
What else would be on the table?
I think property tax needs to be on the table. I think services tax need to be on the table. I think that we have to look at everything. We need to look at all of these new technology industries that didn't exist when most of our tax code was written, and we've done little tweaks here and there to try to catch up with those things, but we haven't had a comprehensive look at it. And we had Governor Sandoval's New Nevada, where we need a tax system that matches that New Nevada. So it's not a one and done conversation. I think that we've trained people that we can do one big initiative and that's going to solve all the world's problems. And the truth of the matter is we're maturing as a state. We are not the state that you and I was born into. I'm not sure if you're native. I just know you've been around for a long time.
I've been born native. Yeah. Well, become native.
Yeah, you've become native. But it's not that state where there was a single industry that could really pave the way. And we're evolving, but there's more evolution to come.
All right, let's take another break, and we'll be back with State Senator Julia Ratti after this.
Dimitri Prine here for Design Outdoor. Are you a homeowner who's interested in remodeling or building a home? At Design Outdoor, we can show you how adding natural or manufactured masonry stone can add beauty and value to your home. And we refer only the best contractors. Our store and backyard are located at 11600 South Virginia, just north of DeMonte Ranch Parkway. Visit designoutdoor.com or call us at 851-9499.
Hey guys, are you watching the game at a friend's or the bar again because you can't watch at home with your wife? Or worse, because she kicked you out and kept your couch, your flat screen, and your kids? What's the one thing a man needs when he loses a good woman? A good lawyer. And when he loses a bad woman, he needs a great lawyer. What makes a good woman a bad woman? You tell me. You're the one that can't watch the game in your own home. I'm men's rights attorney Marilyn York, and I represent men in divorce, custody, and family law matters.
Hi, I'm Dave Newman. Remember me? I used to be the house detective, and now I'm a realtor, full-time at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates. And a lot of people ask me, how's the market? You know what? It's fantastic. If you're even kicking around the idea of buying or selling, give me a call. Let's talk about it. Call me at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates and just ask for the guy who used to be the house detective, Dave Newman.
Everyone is talking about opioids, but they're not the only drugs that can be harmful if taken in large quantities or not as prescribed. You also need to be aware of side effects from anxiety drugs, muscle relaxants, sleep aids, and stimulants. Mixing prescription drugs with other drugs or alcohol can be dangerous. If you take an Ambien with a glass of wine, it may be enough to stop you from breathing. Prescribed drugs can be just as dangerous as illegal drugs. Take medications only as directed.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, our remaining minute here with State Senator Julia Ratti. You brought up property taxes. I mean, this has been a huge burden on local governments now for a long time.
Yep. I mean, I'll just say that our property tax system is broken, and it's not about raising people's property taxes. That's not what's on the table, but we do need to look at depreciation. We need to look at the caps. We need to look at all of these ratchets that we've put onto the property tax system that have disconnected it from economic growth. And we really need to make sure that we're taking care of our schools and our local governments so that we can keep people safe with police, fire, have quality of life with parks and schools.
Quick question. Do you think that anybody that votes to raise the cap on property taxes is going to get reelected?
I'm not a political pundit. You know, I represent my district, so I can't answer that question, but I don't think that's even on the table. Nobody's talking about raising property taxes.
Okay, and that's where we have to leave it. Please come back again soon.
You bet.
And we'll be right back.
The 7th Annual Nevada Newsmakers Goes to Washington is brought to you by Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you. University Medical Center of Southern Nevada, compassion, accountability, integrity, respect. Tolles Development Company, breathing life into Northern Nevada's future. And the Regional Transportation Commission of Washoe County, meeting the community's present and future needs.
A bird's eye captures its surroundings at different heights. At Brian Culpa Photography, we can make your imagination soar over buildings, parks, cityscapes, and beyond. Brian's images tell the story and get the job done. If you need a new perspective to tell your story, contact Brian today. Brian Culpa Photography. Experience the bird's eye view at brianculpaphotography.com.
Hey, Dad? Are you learning? This place is great. Huh? You gotta try this.
Wow, this stuff is great. People are gonna love it.
Yes. Yes, they will.
St. Ives Florist, for every holiday and every special occasion. For romance. Custom home design. We have the largest selection of fresh flowers in Northern Nevada. And we also offer a large selection of unique gift items. Come see me, Lori Ann, at St. Ives Florist, 700 South Wells Avenue, or call me at 333-9190.
Take a look at Pro Group Management and see how your workers' comp requirements can be met head-on. By taking a proactive approach, Pro Group can assure that your company is meeting or exceeding state and federal standards. As you move forward in your industry, Pro Group moves with you, simplifying regulatory tasks, clearing the way so you can get the job done and look to your future success. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
You can watch Nevada Newsmakers anytime online, podcasts, or on YouTube. We'll see you on the next broadcast.